Hey guys, Vanity back with Card 5 Vanguard as on the Vanity Weekly Review. So I hope you guys enjoyed from like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. This time we're covering more reviews from DZ Set 4. DZ Set 4 officially releases this week, and I believe today's going to be our final reviews, and if it's not our final quote-unquote reviews, then there'll be like one card after this video goes up. But either way, let's go ahead and get this video started, shall we, and see what we got, because honestly we got some pretty good reviews to end off the series, or not the series, the set. First up, we have Silverhorn Beast Militia, so a great on boost, Vodka Shield, aka Baze. All the rear guard, then about this unit attacked. If your Vanguards are great through regard Magnolia, energy plus 3 stand this unit and cannot attack during this turn. So all around, it's decent. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but I mean, it is using up energy in a deck that outside of its other new card doesn't actually use up energy at all. Not to mention the fact that it can restand itself. So, you know, Magnolia gives it the ability to attack from back row. You swing with it, and then you energy blast to restand it so it can boost something. And with any multi-attack deck, that tends to be its biggest weakness, where if it doesn't make good numbers, it literally dies to any defensive trigger. So being able to have a 13k booster, because every Magnolia makes us a 13k booster, is pretty solid. So I like my Lisciafael a lot. It's not amazing, but it is particularly nice 2-of in a Magnolia deck. Then we have Silverhorn Beast Lisciafael, grade 2 and sub 5k shield, 10k base. Auto rear guard when attacks on anything. If your Vanguards are great through a greater Magnolia. Energy blast 2/2/2 if you're the rear guards to get 5 per turn. All are pretty solid. Some of my favorite Magnolia support are Algeo and the Algeo second version from like the early sets of D, like D set 3 and D set 4, or D set 1 and D set 4, where pretty much they retired themselves and gave other rear guards power. Honestly, I like Lisciafael a lot, being an on attack, so you don't have to lose your rear guard. Not to mention that it's only an energy blast 2, which means that it gets refilled more than just every turn, and it only requires a Magnolia Vanguard, and it can swing into any unit to get that 5k. So it can swing into a grade 2 rear guard, it can swing into a grade 2 Vanguard, doesn't matter. All around, I like Lisciafael a lot. I think it's a very nice solid support for Magnolia, especially combos really well with Melissa over here. So it's a nice like 3 of tech in a Magnolia deck. Then we have, instead of Umbrella Kukek, grade 1 boost, Vodka Shield, AK base, auto when placed on rearguard circle, which is a great 3 get a Marlene from the drop zone, bot deck it. If you do, check top 5 for 1 Respino, add it to your hand, reveal it, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card, choose a card from hand, card plus 2,000 power for the turn. Okay, 10k booster, searches for Respino. Listen, Respino's the only one that I don't hard remember the skill of off the top of my head with the supporting grade 3s of the DZ start deck boss. So that tells you how much I care about this card, so 2 over 3 of, honestly. Then we have Summer Light Proscenium Prendel, so grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto and placed on the rear guard circle. Vanguards are great to rear guard. To CB1, choose one for the rear guard, and at the end of your turn, bounce that card to hand. I was about to say, if this card just bounces for a free CB1, this thing is the most broken level of support Lyrical Monasterio has, because my god, is that abusable. But I'm pretty sure this part is probably going to require Marlene, and for some reason it didn't transfer with the text, but if it doesn't require Marlene, it's still pretty nice generic support. The only downside is it only bounces the rear guard at the end of the turn, but hey, if you want to aggro your opponent down and call PGs that can get bounced at the end of the turn, go ahead and run this as like 3 of. And then we have False Star, so we have our new Brink Gate ride line, so grades of boost, 5k shows, okay, base, armor, offensive, draw card, standard draw, so if you draw, you go second. Thankfully, none of the ride line really requires this, but I mean, it looks cool. Then we have our grade 1 of the ride line, who also looks cool because he has the sword, and if you don't know me, I'm really biased towards sword, but I really love this card, because this card and this one automatically make this deck so much, in my opinion, more creative than every other Brink Gate deck combined, because it doesn't require a set order in the main deck, meaning you have so many free cards you can use, and it still uses set orders. Therefore, the entirety of Brink Gate support that isn't like restricted to a specific set order is usable. So first up, we have Eno Progress, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto rides over any grade 0, reveal a grade 3 card, then Paladin's card from your ride deck, put a system code XC token into your order zone. Now, if you're wondering what that card is, it's this grade 1 set order that, or order zone in general. You cannot ride a grade 3 cards without impaled under card names, and you have self-revenation gauges. And then auto order zone, when a card is put into your damage zone during your opponent's turn, choose 1 card from your drop zone and place it up face up as a self-reservation gauge. Then if you're a gauge that has 3 or less cards in it, and if a card other than a trigger is revealed in your damage check, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets 5,000 power for that turn. And if your gauge is 4 or more, choose one of your Vanguards and get 5k until end of turn. So if you're wondering what the difference between these two skill is, and you also like me and you woke up at 3 in the morning to read those effects and couldn't understand it, pretty much what this means is, for this effect, if you only have 3 gauges or less, if you pull a trigger, you don't get the 5k. But with this part of the effect, if you have 4 or more gauges, regardless if you pull a trigger, you get the 5k. It's not 2 separate sets of 5k, it is 1 set of 5k. It's just a difference of if you get the trigger or not. Either way, though, pretty solid, because this deck pretty much forces early aggro decks to try to kill you even faster, because this deck can abuse the hell out of the more gauges you get, or just slows them down altogether. And the longer the game goes, well, you can stack up more gauges. So all around, I like system code a lot, because it doesn't go in the main deck. That means you have a lot more spaces for any main deck card that still requires set orders. So I like this card being the way it is. And of course, we go on to Dorvis Evoria, so grade 2 instead of 5k shield, 10k base. Auto opponent with grade 3's Paldo, place one card from the top of your deck face up as a self-rejuvenation gauge. Then you may choose one of your gauges, add it to hand. This is really the only card that affects the gauge zone and actually takes something from it. So if you want to like selectively stack up your gauges, because this can send anything into that gauge, I mean, you can just guard with a bunch of triggers, set them back in there, and then automatically when you ride to grade 3, this thing can bounce that trigger back to hand. So if you want to be smart about it, you can. Or if you just want to middle finger your opponent and throw down a PG, you can. And if your opponent flips the over on you, well, you don't have to worry about throwing down that PG, because then if you take damage after that, you just put the PG from your drop zone into the order zone, and then you just flip that PG back into your hands. So all around Evora is a nice grade 2. It allows you to recycle some of your gauges, and you can play really smart with getting back your defensive card, so it's a nice one of. And of course, we have our grade 3 in Destined One of Exceedance and Paldo. I was so worried this deck was going to be incredibly convoluted and complicated when I first heard about it, and I was really worried when I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning to read these abilities, and then I realized it was incredibly simplistic, and I love it. Anyways, grade 3 Temperature 13k base, act Vanguard Circle once per turn, CB1, choose one card from your drop zone, place it face up as a self-rejuvenation gauge, then check the top 5 to one grade 3 low card from among them, call it to rear guard circle, shuffle the deck until end of turn. This unit gets continuous Vanguard. For every 2 of your self-rejuvenation gauges, all your farmer units get top 5,000 power, and then Divine Skill, act Vanguard. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, and you have 4 more self-rejuvenation gauges, CB1, ditch one till end of turn. This unit gets +1 crit and +2 drives, which some people say is really not that impressive because it doesn't give any numbers from that divine skill and it's kind of simplistic. And some people say that is incredibly insane because that's quad drive double crit going into first grade 3 turn. Because let's just say this right now, this card is the only other card in the deck outside of this that actually gets you gauges. But if your opponent deals you 2 damage and you have 2 cards in drop zone, that's 2 gauges from this, and then these 2 automatically give you the other 2 because this does not require you to add something back to hand. So if you just want to stack the top card into your gauge, you very much can, which basically means first grade 3 turn, if your opponent's going first, you got double crit quad drive and at least 10k go in the front row. Yeah, that's it doesn't sound threatening, but trust me, being on the receiving end of that, unless you got a lot of damage in between you and 6, you're not gonna have a fun time guarding that. Especially when you remember this is Brandkate, which means they have access to Elder Breath, so suddenly everything is in lethal range, and they have a way to get more drive checks, FYI. So either way, Impaldo, as some people don't call it impressive, I say is really cool. It's very simplistic, it gets you gauges, it's not incredibly broken, it has good numbers going into it, and it has a very solid divine skill in my opinion. Then we have Spacewalk Dragon, aka Elder Breath, but as a grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard without this unit boosted anything. If you have 2 or more self-renovation gauges, shove this card to soul, that is a cost. I don't know why this card was just translated without the cost. Then choose one of opponent's rear guards, that's grade 1 or lower, kill it. Okay, cool. Bops, Bops a booster, which is nice, goes to soul, even though this deck does not use soul in any way, shape, or form. And not to mention the fact that this does not require either player to be at grade 3, meaning if you just spam gauges left, right, and center because maybe your opponent did aggro you, you can just use this to kill the opponent's aggro before either side gets to grade 3. All-around Spacewalk is actually a very solid grade 1. I do love it a lot. This is how you support a deck with set orders, so 3 over 4 of. Then we have Gatherer 2-1-1, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard circle during your turn. If you have self-rejuvenation gauges is 4 or more, plus 7 power. Okay, this is an 18k booster or swinger that can technically be procced off before either side gets to grade 3, because again, it doesn't require either side to be at grade 3, and all your opponent has to do is hit you 4 times with this. How likely is that to happen? Not often, but if it does, 18k boosters or swinger, and when it's me, considering the fact that I've seen games where I've just drawn 3, if not all 4 of these in my deck, yeah, this card's deadly if that happens before either side gets to grade 3. So a 4 of beat 6. Then we have Nebula Volk Dragon, grade 2 instead of 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear guard, once you attacks on anything, soul boss 1 to end of battle, this unit gets 5,000 power. Then if your self-rejuvenation gauges is 5 or more, it gets 15k instead of 5k. So it's relatively easy to hit the 5 or more. Like I will say this, unless your opponent willingly damage starves you, and by damage starves you, I mean they have to only hit you once in the entire time of them attacking, they will automatically push you to 4 gauges, because I guarantee if they hit you twice, again this, and then you just don't have to add anything from hand, and then this will automatically get you it. So again, unless your opponent only hits you at most 1 time between when they first swing and by the time you get to grade 3, you are automatically going to have the 4 or more by the time you hit grade 3. If they hit you twice, you're going to guaranteedly have it. If they hit you 3 times, well, you know, you're most likely going to have the 5. And then continuous guard circle of your self-rejuvenation gauges is 4 or more, plus 15,000 shield. All around pretty solid, you know, it's almost a guaranteed 20k shield, not to mention the fact of 25k swinger. And it's nice to have, it adds for the aggro of the deck and also defense of the deck a lot, so it's a very solid 4 of. Then we have Flying Transformation Vinstar, so grade 3 to number store 13k base, continues rear guard circle during your turn. If your self-rejuvenation gauge is 2 or more, plus 5 power. Okay, that is incredibly easy to hit, 18k, and then if you're 8 or more cards, its drive to not be reduced by card effects. If you're wondering why that's important, auto rear guard when it attacks into anything. Grade 2 Vanguard, grade 2 rear guard, rear guard, doesn't matter. If your self-rejuvenation gauges has 4 or more, again, unless your opponent damage starves you, it is going to happen, and you have not performed drive checks with the battle, rear guard attack this turn. CB1, it gets minus drone drive and perform drive checks for that battle, but again, if you have 8 or more, it's automatically just twin drive inherently. At the end of that battle, balance unit. All around pretty solid. It does get rid of itself, sadly, and there are no ways to recycle it. I really wish it just went to the gauge instead, but that would be a little bit too broken, considering that would mean 2 cards in this deck that can gauge charge, and you since you're supposed to spam Vinstar like hell, yeah, kind of 50-50. All around pretty solid, though. Gets decent numbers, because I mean, 5k doesn't sound like much, but then you gotta remember, this is also giving numbers to the front row, and again, it has drive checks, so on your Divine Skill turn going first, on your Divine Skill turn going second, if you pull it off on your first grade 3 turn, you have a total of 5 drive checks, with one of them being double crits. So, yeah, 4 Vinstar. I move on to 4 copies, or not 4 copies, I don't know why I went deck profile mode. Next up we have Sealed Blaze Dragon Apparel, so grade 2 instead 5k show, 10k base. Okay, this is a really solid Battle Saga support. All of them placed on rearguard circle from the hand, check top 5 if your Vanguard's a Sealed Blaze in its card name. Choose up to 1 card with either Overdress ability, the Just Boost ability, or Arms Order from among them, discard and shuffle your deck. So this card literally hits everything that isn't a Bath Sagra or her, like, normal support cards. This either hits Trick Moon's Evolve form, I think I forgot, Verilord. It either hits Verilord, it either hits Trick Moon or Verilord, or it hits one of your main resources, it gets into drop zone, and then you can Haley Bardra it. So all around pretty solid, and then auto drop zone, when your Vanguard's an armed, Energy Blast 3, calls card to rear guard circle, and gets 5,000 power on the turn. All around pretty solid, it uses up no resource outside of the one that the deck does not use outside of the energy generator itself, calls itself to rear guard, gets itself good numbers, and if, God forbid, Bushy gave away for Battle Saga to arm during the battle phase, we got a multi-attacker on loose. So all around pretty solid, searches for pretty much the deck's entire win con in about one go, and literally just calls itself back, so easy 4 of. Then we have Sealed Blaze Dragon Gopaiati. Gridom boost back Kashuda, aka base, continues rear guard circle. If Vanguard card is armed with 2 or more cards, it gets intercept plus 5,000 power, 5,000 shield, optimal per turns. I am still waiting for the day they give us a 3rd arm because they have set this card enough with 2 or more arms that we should get one at this point. But being a 13k base and 10k shield is fine, but Bath Sagra has so many cards like that to where this is only a better version of that one grade 1 that I think was released right after set 4 was dropped. The one that has, if you have a right DD arms, it gets 5,000 power, and if you have a left DD arms, it gets intercept. Which I guess if you're running that card in your deck, you can run this, but I don't think you need to run it otherwise because we have much better power gainers and more consistency options. But it is what it is. Then we have Utilizing Wizard, grade 3 10%, 13k base, auto and put on guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or grade Bastion, Energy Blast 2, it gets down as a shield for end of that battle for every 2 of your grade 3 or grade units. Okay, cool. Bastion has a shield user. If you are a defensive Bastion player, this card's really good. If you are a Bastion player that's on the aggro like me, this card is not being ran in your deck at all. But being able to be a possible 30k shield is pretty solid. So, nice 2 over 3 of it. Since it says units, I assume it counts itself like how it does with Kokobeel, the original Bastion guard, where it get 5k for every grade 3 on your board, or for every 2 grade 3s on your board. So I assume it works the same way, but this is a nice upgrade to her. So if you are running a defensive Bastion card, automatically take it out for this. So 2 over 3 of. Grandeur Edge does not count because Grandeur Edge, in my opinion, is a balance, but I would say more offensive than defensive. Then we have Heavenly Promise Dragon, Convergence Dragon. So disappointed to see this on such a badass dragon because we all know I'm a fan of bows. Grade 3 to episode 30k base. Again, this could have been its own separate grade 3 if this was back in V or Premium because that's just how it is, but it is what it is now. Anyways, active rear guard, 1% of your Vanguards are grade 3, go to Bastion, Energy Blast 3, choose 3 of your rear guards, they get boost for the turn. Okay, why though? Do you just run this instead of Rondalia because Rondalia technically forces you to lose a rear guard? Okay, but there's also other options, such as Honataria. If you do not think it's easy to spam 3 Honatarias in the back row, watch my Bastion games. I guarantee you every single time I get 3 Honatarias in the back row, none of that is planned. It just happens on its own. So what I'm saying is there are more than better options than running this, but if you really want to run this, go ahead. But I don't see the reason you should, so 2 of, 3 of, or if you really do put it in your deck, it's a 4 of, technically speaking, to replace your other grade 3 boosters, but personally, I wouldn't run it. If I had to pick one of these 2 cards to run, I'll pick this one just because.
Next up, we have the last few cards of the day. First up, we have Ringing Song Fiora, grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, and then auto rear guard, when it attacks into anything. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Krysrain, you choose 4 of your units. If you chose 4 units that all had different card names from each other, she gets 10,000 power, all on pretty solid. She can pick herself. She can obviously pick Krysrain. All you need is 2 or more units with different card names, and she'll be a 20k swing. The best part is she can swing into a grade 2 unit and she'll still get that 10k. And not to mention the fact that she doesn't specify you have to pick normal units, so worst case scenario, if you have to call triggers to board, she's still 20k swing regardless. So Fiora is a nice 3 of in a Krysrain song. Then we have moderate mid Rochelle, great on boost, 5k shield, 8k base. On the rear guard, when you're a grade 3 grade of Vanguard, Krysrain's card name attacks by energy blasting 3, shoving her to soul, you get to draw a card, and then if your rear guard has not stood by any card ability this turn, you can choose one of your rear guards that has been chosen by the ability of your grade 3 grade of Vanguard, Krysrain in the card name and stand it. All are pretty solid because you can have a rear guard that attacks twice with an extra 10k, thanks to, Krysrain giving that unit 10k. If you pick Fiora, you're going to have really decent numbers because Fiora's 10k is also for the turn. So all around Rochelle works pretty solid. I mean, she's only Energy Blast 3, which you literally get from Krysrain's skill herself, not to mention the fact that it does get you more multi-attackers and adds a little bit more pressure to Krysrain. So I do like Rochelle a lot. I think she's a very solid grade 1 going into Krysrain support, and I do like her as a 4, honestly. Then we move on to our new ride line for the Supremacy Destined One. First up, we have Lucid Scent Miels, so grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, standard starting for some future draw if you go second. Then we have Coolest Glance Viella, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when rode upon by Mature Lures Lutica, draw a card and then choose a card from your hand or rear guard circle, shove it to soul, and then choose one of your guards, give 5k for the turn. Okay, pretty cool. I do like it more than I like Electro Spartan because it reminds me of that, where it does send a card from your hand to soul, but on the bright side, you get to draw first, so if your draw is something that you would rather send to soul than something currently in your hand, like a Persona Ride, a PG, or a Trigger, I will for always be mad about this. You can send that to soul instead, and the Vanguard becomes a 15k for that turn, meaning, even if your opponent is at grade 2 and they throw down a 15k shield against your Vanguard attack, even if you don't boost, it's still one to pass. So all around, Viella is a very solid grade 1 to have. I do like her a lot, and, I think it's a good ride deck card. Then we have Mature Lures Lutica, grade 2 instead of 5k shield, 10k base. Auto, she's rode upon by a grade 3 Lisciafael, if you can counter boss 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card and soul charge 1. All pretty solid. You see the deck ease into the CB a little bit, but it also ease into the energy a lot. So depending on how you want to do it, you could either draw a card or you can choose to soul charge 1 or Energy Blast 3. Either way, it gets you a free soul and a free hand card, which is very useful for Lisciafael's skills. So I think it's a decent ride deck card. And we have Destined One of Supremacy Lisciafael, so grade 3 to Persona 13k base, auto Vanguard, once per turn when she swings into anything while not being boosted specifically, Energy Blast 3, then shove 2 or more rear guards to soul. I did not realize I said 2 or more, and this unit gets a draft for the turn, and then this unit gets an extra 5k to end of turn for each card put into the soul for the cost. So it's a minimum of 2 cards you send to soul, so she will always get at least plus 10. On the bright side, if you send your entire board to soul, she gets plus 25 and a drive on top of that. I mean, regardless, she gets the extra drive. So, on pretty solid, she can get stronger the more rear guards you send to soul. She can get extra drives, and God forbid, if Bushy ever gave Lyrical Monasterio their equivalent to Aggravate from Gold Paladin V series. But you know what? If the day comes, the day comes. So, all around, very solid skill. And then Divine Skill, auto Vanguard. I think about that this unit tacked into a grade 3 or grade unit, whether it was a rear guard or a Vanguard. If your soul has 6 or more cards in it, this card almost guarantees you're going to hit that before even trying. Counterboss 1, stand this unit, and it gets -2 drives for that turn, and to until the end of this fight, you get all your Vanguards with Lisciafael on their card names, get 5,000 power and +1 critical, activable per turns. All around pretty solid. It does get the restand. The downside is on the second battle, she won't have drive checks, outside for this skill, but so she'll have 1 drive check, but also she'll be an 18k double critical permanent during both players' turns, so she has a little bit harder ability. It makes it harder to hit. All around, Lisciafael is pretty solid. I do like her skill. It's nothing like super flashy. This ability gets numbers out the wazoo if you really set it up right. So honestly, I cannot wait to try Lisciafael. So she's got a good in my book. Then we have Soothing Voice Jonette, because of course they had to print the card I don't care about. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. She looks so nice for a card that I'm never going to use. Continues rear guard a guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade, Lisciafael, 5k power, 5k shield. Okay, the deck sends a lot of rear guards to soul, and if you're trying to be like me, you're probably going to eat your entire board to soul every turn. So having that extra 5k shield to mitigate, calling your entire hand to board is pretty solid, but I'm never going to use this. But if you do use it 3 or 4. Then we have Charming Present Affy, so grade 3 to Persona 13k base. Auto, when she's placed on the rear guard circle, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Lisciafael, counterboss 1 to draw a card, she'll get 5,000 power for that turn. And then auto, when she's put into your soul from your rear guard, with the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard Lisciafael on the card name, choose your Vanguards, get 5,000 power for the turn. Okay, cool. Ways to give the Vanguard more power on top of her already gaining power for every card sent to the soul. If you really want to use the skill, you can use it to get hand cards and 5k, but I really love how the more important effect, in my opinion, is free, because again, this does help add more numbers to Lisciafael, so if you don't want to lose your entire board just giving your Vanguard numbers, you don't have to. or if you do, you can give her more numbers. Either way, Afi is a very solid grade 3. I do like her a lot. She can get you hand cards if you want to use a CB for it, and she does get your Vanguard extra power, so she's a 4 in my opinion. Then we have Sweet Supremacy, Sweetest Sweet Supremacy, grade 3, normal order that is making me incredibly hungry because I see pancakes. Play it by Bastion 1 for your Vanguard's Lisciafael, Energy Charge 2. Okay, that fixes one problem with the deck. And then choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets contains Vanguard. Circle all your farms, you get 5,000 power for the turn. Okay. It makes the Vanguard a little bit more threatening. This literally just seems you're supposed to stack power on the Vanguard like 24/7, yeet everything into soul, or yeet a good chunk of your board to soul, and then just beat the hell out of your opponent with that. But either way, though, it's nice that it gives the front row 5k. I wish this didn't cost a CB. I'd much rather this had just said Soul Blast 3, because the deck can come back from Soul Blasting 3, especially because it seems more like a card you want to use once a game. So Soul Blasting 3 wouldn't be that bad, since you only need the 6 soul for the once per game divine skill, and you're going to hit that almost guaranteed. So Sweet Supremacy, I don't hate it, I just wish it was a Soul Blast cost. Then we have Sway with Swings by Lethal, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, thank god we got a counter charger. So this goes to prove every Destined one is getting a counter charger. The only one that hasn't so far has been the Brankgate one, and that's it. That and technically Alden, but Alden had Fire Ass, so I don't really count that. Anyway, Sway with Swings Beto, so it contains rear guard during the battle. Boost your Vanguards will go through guard Lisciafael, add 5,000 power. Then auto was put into your soul from your rear guard by the ability of Lisciafael. Draw a card if you do not counter charge 1. Okay, pretty solid. I was afraid she was gonna have the extra 2k skill, making her just as the generic 15k booster, but I'm really glad that she kind of took the Bellstar route where it has a different skill instead of giving the extra 2k, where in this case she gets you a hand card to replace her, but she can also get you a counter charge. All around pretty solid. This deck, as we saw, eats into the CB a little bit, so she's a very solid 4 in the deck. And finally, we have Haverlast grade 2 in our last unit card revealed. This is Brilliance Restage Albino, so grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. My favorite in terms of art out of all these cards. Contains rear guard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard Lisciafael, she gets 5,000 power active upon his turn, so 15k base during both portions by being on a grade 3 is pretty solid. And then auto rear guard once per turn. When your grade 3 guard Vanguard Lisciafael in this card name attacks, if your front row has no other rear guards in it, CB1 to stand her, and if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 guard at 10,000 power. So if you go second on your divine skill turn, your first turn, that would be what, 5 attack? Well, you have to have no other front or rear guards. So you have 4 attacks, one of which has double critical, triple drive for one of them. The Vanguard is God knows what at that point, and good to know. By the way, this restand effect procs regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard is at. It just procs more if your opponent's at grade 3. So, I'm gonna admit, I did not care for this card when I first saw it, and I was real full confident that this was going to be my least favorite of the divine skills, except for Alden, because protection. And then, now that I've seen the deck, I'm kind of yeah, I'm just gonna add this one here, and we'll see what we get. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us for Twitch. I'll see you all then. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.